Once again, my name is John with VoIP Supply. Here at VoIP Supply, recently celebrated our 16th birthday. Founded back in 2002, one of the first in the industry to kind of market and sell VoIP products. Got about 30 employees located in Amherst, New York, which is right outside of Buffalo, which is thankfully finally experiencing spring weather, so that's pretty awesome. Over 125 customers worldwide, many of which are Grandstream customers specifically, whether it's through the GWN series or the UCM PBXs or the Grandstream phones. Very familiar with the Grandstream line. We do have a partner program, which is pretty much just a reseller program through VoIP Supply. If you're interested in that, definitely reach out to me. Through that reseller program, we can provide you better pricing. Obviously, you have access to all of the sales reps, such as myself. And then we also can utilize the fulfillment program where we would provision your devices for your specific system and then send it right to your customers, ready to plug and play. We can market it with your logos and all your inserts and stuff. So pretty exciting option there for you. And then in addition, not just hardware, but we also resell services at VoIP Supply, pretty much all of which, if it's a SIP trunk solution or hosted, we'll work with the Grandstream phones. We can get you set up as a cloud span reseller where there's no quotas or commitment levels, but we do pay out commissions based on the monthly recurring revenue for that. You can also then leverage, the relationships we have with those various service providers to utilize their technical expertise in case you need them on a conference call or anything like that. But another really exciting option here with VoIP Supply. And last but not least, there's my information as well as kind of some information about becoming a partner through us. On our webpage, we have access to becoming a Grandstream partner as well, which will enable you to kind of get information from Grandstream directly, as well as get the most aggressive pricing from Grandstream. So both check out that partner portal page, and if you have any further questions, my direct line as well as email is right there at the top of the slide. So definitely reach out to me if a Grandstream solution or a Grandstream partnership makes sense for you. But without further ado, I will pass it along to Ernesto, who will take over the Grandstream portion of the show.
So, as I was saying, good morning and good afternoon, depending where you are. My name is Ernesto Calderón, broadcasting live from Grandstream Networks in Boston, Massachusetts. So, as John mentioned today, we're going to be talking about the GWN7600 series access point. We have different models from indoors, outdoors. I'm going to be showing you a little bit about the specifications, the highlights, or the main specification that we would like you to know. And at the same time, some tips how to install it, how to access to the access point. And most important, I'm going to show you a little bit about the beta GWN cloud that is available. So now you can connect your access point and manage them from the cloud. So let me get started. And again, if you have any questions during my presentation, there's a Q bubble at the bottom of your browser. Just click on that, submit your questions, and then at the end of my presentation, we're going to be, I'm going to try to answer most of your questions. So as I was saying, let me show you a little bit about the Grandstream offering. First, as you know, Grandstream has been in the market for 15, 16 years already. Very similar to VoIP Supply. So as you may know, Grandstream has a lot of effort producing IP phones, from video phones to enterprise phones, no video, no audio, audio only, or even the DEC phones. We also have in our portfolio PBXs like the UCM6200, and obviously network surveillance from NVRs, cameras, and the door phone system. We also include in our portfolio ATAs, analog telephone adapters from 1 FXS port all the way up to 48 ports. Good solution for call centers, for example, or hotels, verticals. And last but not least, Grandstream is putting a lot of effort into the network product, access point, router, and that's what this webinar is about. So just want to give you a summary of the different type of access point that we have. At the bottom left corner, we have the GWN7610. Then we have the 7600, and lastly, the outdoors or long range 7600 LR. Grandstream also is putting a lot of effort into the routers. We have a router with 7 ports, 2 WAN and 5 LANs, a couple of USB ports, and that router comes with a hardware accelerated VPN client and server, so it supports OpenVPN and other protocols. And most important, integrated controller. So in any Grandstream network product that I'm going to show you today, you can enable the controller in the unit itself. So you don't need a third-party hardware. You don't need a software running in another computer. You basically turn on the controller on the device, so then you can manage your access point within the same interface of your access point. And then, as I mentioned before, we have a beta pilot program right now that you can manage your access point from the cloud. So let's talk about the first model, access point GWN7600. This is an enterprise 802.11ac, meaning that supports both 2.4 and 5.0 gigs. You can have up to 250 Wi-Fi clients and with a throughput of about 1.75 gigabit per second. And this model includes 2 gigabit wireline ports. Typically, one is to power the device and connect it to the network. And the second one can be used as a switch. So then you can connect another access point or maybe another network device. The coverage range for this particular model is 175 meters. And with the type of antenna, the technology that we're using is a 3x3 MIMO technology. With this type of antenna, you can have many sessions by utilizing different type of Wi-Fi security options, for example, WEP. You can use WPA or even the more complex WPA2 Enterprise. Again, the devices, they support dual band Wi-Fi signal, 2.4 and 5.0. And most important, as I mentioned before, if you decide to enable the controller on this particular model, the 7610, then you can control up to 50 access points. However, the next model, this is the GWN7600. This is a Wave 2 device, more robust, a little smaller. The range is a little smaller, maybe 10 meters less than the previous, but you can have up to 450 Wi-Fi clients. The throughput is about the same, 1.27. It also supports 2 gigabit wireline ports. And the coverage, as I mentioned before, is about 165. Dual band. So this device comes with a dual band antenna, 2x2 MU MIMO technology. MU stands for multi-user. So that particular access point can have or can transmit multiple sessions at a time. That's why you can have up to 450 Wi-Fi clients. Throughput is less, but more clients. And same for the Wi-Fi security features from WEP to WPA2 Enterprise. And if you decide to enable the controller on this particular device, then you can control up to 30 access points. Last but not least, this is the long range or outdoors access point, is the GWN7600 LR. This is also a Wave 2 outdoors device. You can have support up to 450 Wi-Fi clients, 1.27. So everything is basically the same as the previous model. That's why the model it's very similar, 7600. However, because this is an outdoors long range, then the coverage range is about 300 meters. Now, let me give you a summary of what I just mentioned. So you can see that between the 7610 and the 7600, the main difference is about the antenna. from a 3x3 to 2x2 antenna. The coverage is between, the throughput, sorry, is between 1.75 Gbps to 1.27, which is in the 7600. And for coverage, then you can see that it supports from 575, the first model 7610, to 541, and then the long range 984. Another thing that I would like to show you is about the SSIDs. So again, if you enable the controller in one of these devices, obviously then you can create your SSIDs, and then depending on the model, you can have up to 16 SSIDs per device. Concurrent clients from 250 to 450. And if you enable the controller, look at the difference. So the 7610, you can control up to 50 access points, but the other two models, you can control up to 30. Now, I told you that we also have a router in our portfolio. Basically, this is a enterprise multi-1 gigabit VPN router, 7 gigabit ports, 2 for 1, 5 for LAN, hardware accelerated VPN. So it supports typical protocols, PPTP, L2TP, IPsec, and IPsec and OpenVPN are supported in both as a client and as a server. You can, if you enable the controller, you can use the router to enable the access point controller. If you do so, then you can control up to 300 access points. So that's why it's better to have a full Grandstream solution, not only with the router, but access point as well. So then you can move the controller into the router. It's a device with more hardware, more horsepower. That's why it can control more access points. Another thing that I want to show you about this one is that it comes with two USB ports. Can be used, for example, for storage and backup, maybe a network printer. Now, let's talk about installation and deployment. So how do you access to the access point? You basically take it out of the box, connect it into your network, which, by the way, could be an existing network. You may have your existing network with your own router, with your own switches. You just want to provide or enable Wi-Fi to your network. Just purchase a couple of access points from Grandstream, connect it to your network, and you're ready to go. If you don't have technical skills to configure your SSIDs or network Wi-Fi network, then you can use the standalone version. I'm going to show you that in a moment. So for now, just to access into the device, you need to find out the MAC address on the back of the unit, pop up your browser, and type the string that you can see here, HTTPS GWN _ the MAC address, that local, and you will access to the web interface immediately. Another way that you can access to it, in case you, let's say that you install it already and you forgot to write down the MAC address, then you can simply download a simple software from our website. It's called GWN Discovery Tool. Then it's going to search within your network to find and show you all the Grandstream access point in the network.
Hey, Ernesto,
You can
quick
see
question.
the MAC address. Yes, sir.
Sorry. Luai chatted in. Does the access point support a roaming feature, like hand over the client to the strongest access point without disconnection?
Absolutely, yes, that is for sure. And I'm going to show you a little bit about the protocols that the access point support in order to have a better roaming capability. The roaming typically is a feature, it's a client feature. So, but the access point, they sometimes help out the client to identify the better signal to hop to the next AP. But yeah, I'm going to show you a little bit more about that in a moment. All right, so let's go back here. So this is how you can discover your devices. Obviously, once you identify the IP address, just open your browser. The first time that you access to the web interface, that most likely is going to be your master. Master means where the controller is going to be enabled. So, and then eventually when you access a slave access point, you won't be able to access it through the web interface. You're going to have a page saying something like, this is a slave that you cannot control, because everything's controlled through the controller or the master access point. All right, so you access here. So the first time that you access, by the way, you're forced to change the password. So you cannot the first time is admin, but eventually you need to change it. You're forced to change the password. This is what I was saying before, standalone architecture, meaning that you have your existing router and your switches. You just want to enable Wi-Fi into your network. So just purchase a couple access points from Grandstream, connect it to the network, and you can manage. I mean, typically, when you have a network group already in place, the access point can simply broadcast that network group through the Wi-Fi. But if you have multiple network groups in your existing network, then I'm going to show you how to create multiple SSIDs per each network group. So this is an example. In this typical network setup, you have network group 0 and network group 1. So you can allocate SSIDs depending on the network group. Another way that you even more simple, that you don't even need to access the web interface. If you turn the AP, you're gonna see on the sticker the default SSID, which typically is GWN and the last 6 digits of the MAC address. And guess what? At the bottom left corner, I don't know if you can see it, you're gonna find a random generated Wi-Fi password. So even more simple, just connect the AP to the network and look the SSID name on your computer or cell phone. Okay. I mean, typically I understand that you will prefer to configure or to have fully control access to your network so you can manage your SSIDs and different networks or VLANs or different VPN. You can do that. So in general, what I wanted to show you is that as you can see the diagram, the first access point that you connect is going to become the master. And then the following APs detected in the network, we call them slaves. And this is how you find or identify the slave APs in your network. Access to the master AP, go to the access point menu. Top right corner, there's a button that says Discovery AP. When you click on that, see the screen on the right-hand side, then all the APs are going to show up there. You simply identify them and click on the action button, and then that particular IP is going to be part of the master controller. That's it. So eventually, if you have 10 APs, for example, you want to move them, you want to control them all from the master AP, then on the left-hand side, you're going to see 10 APs that can be controlled. Things that the controller can do, basically you can obviously auto-discover, as I show you. You're gonna pair the devices, you're gonna provision them, and then eventually you can manage the Wi-Fi networks, you can manage the groups, you can manage the client, and even enable the master failover. So yeah, that's important. What about if the master AP goes down? So you need to schedule or create a master failover so you can always have your Wi-Fi network available. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So again, it's a 1, 2, 3 steps. Number 1 is discovery. Number 2 is pairing. And number 3 is provisioning. So once you have your slaves under your controller, then you can start creating your network groups. You can start creating your SSIDs. As an example, in a typical environment, you may have different network groups. For example, your guest network, office network, lab, training, or VoIP. And then on the right-hand side, you have your SSIDs that you can create multiple SSIDs and link each SSID to each network group that you have already created in your router. Now, from the controller access point, as I mentioned before, you have full control of the client. You can see your client's MAC address, host name. Host name typically is blank. We left that field for you to configure it. So eventually, for better troubleshooting or quicker troubleshooting, you can enter a name or a host name to the particular device. For example, Ernesto's computer, Ernesto's cell phone, for example. So eventually, when you are troubleshooting, you can identify the client quicker. You can see the connection type, radio channel, throughput, and aggregate usage. Now, I mentioned about the master failover, very important. So you need to identify one of the slave APs. and select it to be working as the failover master. Once you do that, a couple clicks, it's super easy to do. Once you do that, then the primary master is always going to be being the master. So and the failover master are going to be, both are going to be syncing or pinging to each other. So and synchronizing the data, of course. So then when the primary master is down, then the failover master take place, and then your Wi-Fi network remains available. I also want to show you some of the important or nice features that the access point support. Something like monitoring, reporting, roaming. Somebody was asking about roaming, captive portal, security, client breach. So I'll show you a little bit about each of them. This one, for example, is the reporting and overview. So obviously from the main access point web interface, you have the dashboard that you can see your whole Wi-Fi network health. If you can see how many APs are connected, discover online, offline, how many clients are connected. Most important, what band your clients are using. So if you eventually have a network with 100 clients, and then you notice that most of them are using 2.4, for example, legacy technologies, then it's better for you as an administrator to turn on the band steering. I'll show you a little bit about that option in a moment. You can see the channel allocation or distribution, top clients, top SSIDs, throughput. So if you identify a particular client that is utilizing or wasting your bandwidth, you can see that from this menu right away. Next is the reporting status. So obviously, you can see the status of each client of the network or each access point. So what model, firmware version, MAC address, you can see that from the dashboard. And for reporting, each AP support an email notification feature. Basically, if you enable these options, for example, memory usage, CPU usage, firmware upgrade, every time something like this happens, then you will be notified via email. You're going to receive an email. You configure the APs to register with your email client. Next application feature is band steering. I believe I mentioned a little bit about that. So if you have a network where most of the clients are legacy 2.4, using the 2.4 band, then it's better for you to enable this option to steer up your clients, your dual band clients, to force them to use 5.0. So then the legacy clients, they're going to be using the 2.4 only. You can also do the opposite. Not typical, but also can be done. For client isolation, that's a good option, especially for guest networks. So you're sharing your network, you enable an SSID that you call it guest, and then people accessing your Wi-Fi through the guest network, they're going to have access to the internet only. You don't want them to mess around with your LAN, pinging, internal devices or printing within the local printers. So you don't want that. So that's why you need to enable this option. So let me explain a little better like this. If you enable internet mode, that's the same example that I gave you. So as you can see, the green arrows, then the client will have access to the internet. They do not have access between themselves. Client cannot ping or access the AP, not even the router. So that's in the internet mode, okay? That's the most common setting. Also, we support the radio mode where you can specify what devices they have access to. So basically they have access to everything except client to client. And lastly, the gateway mode. So you can enter specifically a MAC address of one of the devices that you do want the clients to have access to. Typical example could be the router. So the clients can access, the administrator can access the web interface. Or a better example, an intranet server. So if you have an intranet server, then the clients can go to that particular server, to the internet, but not to the rest of the clients. Access point also support client bridge. So basically is in case you want to expand your network and you have a new office, for example, that you don't want to wire, you don't want to throw a wire. So it's, because it's too long probably, or, it's basically easier to configure a client bridge. So from your existing office, you configure one of the access point to be working as the, let's call it sender Wi-Fi bridge. And then on the remote side, you have another access point that you configured also as a client bridge that I will call it the receiving side. On the receiving side, then you connect through the switch port of the AP, you connect your switches and your clients. So in that way, these clients are basically part of the main office network. Everything through a Wi-Fi bridge. So these options are pending in some of the models. I believe as of today, they are supported already in all the models, but keep an eye checking on the latest firmware. Wi-Fi scheduler, so basically you can turn on and off the Wi-Fi by following a schedule like this. Typical example is in an office environment. You do want to have Wi-Fi during business hours, office hours, but not off hours. So then you enter a schedule, and also we have an LED scheduler similar to the Wi-Fi scheduler, but in this case, the LEDs of the access point can be disabled, turned off by following a schedule. This is how you configure it. And another one is bandwidth management. Very important. Back to the same example, guest network. When you have a guest network, you don't want everyone to start utilizing 100% of your bandwidth. So then you can allocate an amount of bandwidth to a particular network. You can manage or allocate the bandwidth to a particular SSID, a particular MAC address or IP address, or per client. So you go to these menus and enable it. It's super easy to enable. And back to somebody was asking about roaming. Roaming, again, is a client feature. So the clients, they have different protocols to understand how to roam or to hop from one IP to the other one. So it all depends on the client, on your computer, on your cell phone, smartphone. However, what Grandstream is doing, we understand what protocols the clients are using to roam, to enable roaming. So what we do is we help the clients by sending better stat or signals to the client so they know how to roam better. So for example, we support these three protocols, minimum RSSI, MPA caching, and also enterprise voice. So let me explain. The first one is RSSI. So that means minimum receive signal strength indication. So typically this one is used to help the client roaming and prevent client from connecting to the wrong AP, which can affect the performance. So each access point is broadcasting the signal between the AP and the client. So we're letting them know or reminding them, because they should know that already, what is the signal between the AP and the client itself. This is an option that you need to enable in the configuration. Just go to the Wi-Fi tab and look for the enable RSSI. The next one is PMK caching. PMK caching is enabled by default. You don't need to enable it. So when the client roaming back to the previous AP, the 802.x authentication will not happen. So when a client or smartphone, like this example, is authenticated with the first AP, and then the client goes to AP2, then when the client is coming back to AP1, then the 802.x authentication simply is skipped. In that way, we're gonna gain a couple of, I would say, milliseconds, maybe a second or 2 seconds during this authentication process. And last one, you do need to enable this one. They need to be enabled because some clients don't support it. So depending on your typical vendor that you're using as your computers, If they support this protocol, then you need to enable it in the access points. This is the enterprise voice. Enterprise voice has a shorter scan time, and it does omit the four-way handshake. So similar to the previous one, the client is doing the handshake, the four-way handshake with the first access point. That's for sure. That needs to happen. But when the client goes to the second IP and then comes back to the first one, the handshake is avoided, it's skipped. So again, this is gonna give an extra few seconds for the connection to get established. Another nice option that I want to mention today is the captive portal. All the access points, even the router, if you enable the controller in the router, you have that option. Captive portal is a nice feature that most of the customers are using, especially a coffee shop, for example, at the airport, at the hotels. So that's a very typical option that every access point needs to support today. We support it in different ways, with authentication and without authentication. With authentication, we support by using a radios server or by using social media login authentication. For example, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms. So if you're using the radius, then the access point, the controller, sorry, is sending the captive portal page to the client, and then the clients need to enter a user ID and a password. That information is received by the AP, and the AP is going to query the radius server. If the credentials are authenticated, then internet access is granted. It's super easy to set up. Everything is done from the web interface. You can customize the captive portals. You can enter your own logo, your own text. Even you can redesign the whole page. You have access to the HTML files. You can download them, edit it, and upload it again. Or simply you can re-edit or redesign your web page and push it to the AP. Super easy. From the captive portal, you can see how many clients are connected and for how long they're being connected to. All right, last but not least, we're gonna be talking about the security options or features available in the access points. Basically, the first one that I want to mention is called X509 security. That means that each Grandstream AP comes with its own certificate. Other vendors, they have a unique certificate. In our case, we have a unique certificate. Sorry, other vendors, they use a generic certificate. But in our case, we use a unique certificate per device. And the certificate is composed based on the device MAC address. Firmware protection, so we added some protection to the firmware by using signatures. You know what, no one can tamper into the firmware. If you try to do that, then when trying to upload it to the unit's gonna verify that it's tampered and drop the installation. We added some security also during the boot and runtime. And typically the Wi-Fi encryptions, as I mentioned before, from WEP to WPA2. The one that we highly recommend is WPA2 with AES enabled. And another security option, as I mentioned before, the first time that you log into the unit, you must change the admin password. Also, in the back of the unit, you have a random generated password for your SSID. For upgrade and provisioning, so you can upgrade the unit, obviously, by using remote servers, like any Grandstream device supports. We added some, for troubleshooting, by the way, this is for syslog and packet capture. So we added some syslog options, packet capture, so you can troubleshoot a particular case. We even enable a log server into the router, so then you can have multiple APs or even clients sending the logs to the router, and then you eventually access the router and download the syslog files. For a typical ping and trace route, that can be done from the AP or the router. core files are automatically generated. If you have an issue, if the device crashes, it will dump or generate a core file that then you can retrieve from the web interface and share it with Grandstream support. So now I want to mention a little bit, I'm going to show you a little bit about what Grandstream has launched a few weeks ago. It's in beta. It's called the GWN Cloud. So basically all what I showed you before, that you can typically manage your APs from the AP controller. Now you can do it from the cloud. So not only one customer, you can manage multiple customers, and each customer may have many APs. So go to grandstream.com, go to gwn.cloud and sign up. It's free as of today. So obviously from the cloud, you can manage the APs. As I mentioned before, you can have multiple customers, multiple sites. You can add the devices in many ways, including using your smartphone app, iOS and Android. For example, if you want to, you have 3 different methods to add the APs into the cloud. From the cloud, you have 2 options: the manual option and the import option. So manually, you basically enter the MAC address, enter the password that is written on the device. Remember, on the device itself, on the back of the unit, you have a Wi-Fi password. So you enter that in the cloud, and then you can add the unit. Simple as that. Or the other option is import. So basically, you can create a CSV file with many devices in one file, MAC address and password. Just upload the file, and then you can add your APs. Second method is by using also the cloud. But in this case, you want to use a smartphone application. We call it GWN Cloud. You can download it. It's available for free. So basically, you need to originally log in from the app to the same credential that you have in the cloud. Then from the unit, you basically scan the barcode of the access point. And once you have the devices added, as you can see on the right-hand side, then you click add, and these devices again are going to synchronize with your cloud profile. And the last third method. Any questions, John?
Yeah, sorry. We had a question come in from Eric regarding the cloud management. It's free as of today. Will there be a fee for using the cloud management in the future?
We don't know. We don't know yet. Probably yes, but I don't have the details at this time. But eventually, we may have some free plans similar to the IP Video Talk, by the way, the platform that we're using today for this webinar. But yeah, I don't want to say if we're gonna have a paid version, but probably.
Sure. Got it. And then one last question: is this app Android only, or is there also a iOS platform
both?
available?
Yes, Android and iOS. Yeah, yes.
Super.
Both versions are supported.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, and the third method to add your APs is in case you have an existing Grandstream Wi-Fi network. So you already created all your APs through your controller, either from a 7600 or a router 7000, and then you sign up for the cloud option. So then what you do is you go to your master AP. There's an option, I don't know if you can see it, top right corner, third button, it says transfer AP. So when you click on that button, it's going to ask you, there's sort of like a link, it's going to synchronize with your cloud. You need to enter your credentials. It will register, it will log in to your cloud profile, and then all these devices are going to be pushed to the cloud option or profile. All right, so that was a little overview of the GWN Cloud. Please go to grandstream.com, sign up, it's still for free, it's in beta, and utilize the forum. So any recommendations or issues that you find during the beta testing, please make sure that you utilize the forum to let Grandstream know of your needs. And lastly, before we go through the Q&A, basically I just want to say that these are one of the upcoming new features that will be supported in the APs. I believe the network port on the router, by the way, can now be used as a WAN. So now you can have you can have 3 WAN ports. We're going to be supporting Linkify, which is a location within a Wi-Fi network similar to a GPS that you typically use for driving. Now Linkify is compressing that feature into a Wi-Fi network, typical for malls, hotels that you walk in and you need to be guided to find the right spots. More protocols will be supporting the router. GRE, BGP, RIP, and OSPF will be supported also. Website blocking will be supported. Airtime fairness. Airtime fairness is basically you may have some clients that they don't, legacy devices that they don't have the throughput, they don't utilize the throughput of the AP. If you have an AP that supports 1.75 as the throughput, and you have a device that supports much less, so then you can lower the throughput for this type of devices to increase the throughput for new devices that do support a higher speed throughput. And mesh support, I believe some of them are, the mesh is supported already. It will be supported in the 7610 in the next firmware release. All right, so having said that, that's all I have for today. Again, I'm gonna be opening the session, the floor for any questions that you may have. I think John is gonna help us. By the way, if you have any sales-related question, John is available for that. The Voice Supply is an excellent Grandstream partner. You can call them. You have his phone number, his email address. So any questions sales-related, reach out to them. They also have an excellent support team. And if you ever need to open a direct channel, a support with Grandstream, go to helpdesk.grandstream.com. Make sure that you sign up to be a reseller connect, to have a reseller connect ID. So then your support tickets are prioritized. So let's open up the questions. John, any questions for me?
Yeah, you've got actually a bunch coming in here. So let's just kind of start from the top. David asks, will the cloud be extended to control the router as well as the APs?
Well, the cloud is a master, it's an access point management tool. However, typically, obviously, you don't have that feature, that capability in the router, but eventually we should be able to also include not only the router, but other Grandstream product into the cloud. It's not in our short-term roadmap, but definitely it will be supported soon.
Great, awesome. Patrick asks, can SSIDs be associated with VLANs?
Yes, for sure. Each SSID can be associated with not only VLANs, but different network groups. In each network group could be VLAN 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The devices support up to 50 VLANs. And after you make the association, you can also make some bandwidth limitations that you can allocate bandwidth to specific VLANs. So, yep, to answer your question, yes, definitely, it is supported.
Super, great. We have Pete asking, when creating a wireless bridge, let's say between buildings, using the 7600 LR, what is the maximum distance between the LRs?
Between the LR, so it's the same distance that I showed you before, basically 300 meters, or almost 1,000 feet right here. So yes, I wouldn't utilize the full range. Some people asking, okay, if each individual AP long range support about 300 meters, does that mean that I can have a bridge of 600 meters, right? So each AP it has a range of 300. In theory, yes, for sure. But in my opinion, Make it shorter. The shorter, the better. There's many elements between, within the Wi-Fi signal spectrum or RF that may be interfering with the signal. Not only for our APs, but this is a standard in the Wi-Fi standards, basically. So yeah, but in theory, yeah, definitely you can have a breach of up to 600 meters.
Cool. Sebastian asks, are you planning on implementing WPA3 support anytime soon?
It is included in a roadmap. I don't have an ETA, but definitely will be supported.
Okay. Eric asks, on the router, what is the throughput of the OpenVPN?
That would be depending on, I owe you that one. Yeah, I owe you that one. So by the way, after this presentation, we're gonna send the presentation itself, the presentation deck, probably the recordings, and any pending question that you submitted through the Q&A. We have access to that, and we can follow up on that, okay?
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so Eric will get to that answer. And then the last one I've seen come in is from Jamie. Jamie asks regarding the GWN7600, directional antenna or Omni. Second question, all 5 gigahertz channels, including DFS. And yeah, that was 2 questions in one. So directional antenna, Omni, and then are all.
Yeah, basically all of our APs are omnidirectional. However, the long range has an option that we call it beam forming. So even that it's omnidirectional, 360 degrees, because the unit looks like a directional antenna, but actually it's not. It's at 360 degrees, omnidirectional, but supporting the beam forming technology, which even that is broadcasting 300 meters, is going to concentrate the signal only to the identified client.
Awesome. And then one more question came in from Roger. I'm not sure if this might be on your end. Excuse me. The support forum on the Grandstream website for the GWN7XXX product is not working properly. You got authorization errors. Is that something that he should maybe contact like Grandstream Export regarding? Or?
Okay, yeah, good to know. Good to know. I will check it out and report it right away. Thank you for that.
Awesome. Well, I think that is, one more. For testing the new Wi-Fi SIP phone, would you suggest the best environment would be using these APs rather than a third-party AP?
Say that one more time, please.
So we're for testing the new Wi-Fi SIP phones. I'm assuming the Grandstream Wi-Fi SIP phone.
Oh, okay.
Best to use the Grandstream AP rather than a third-party AP.
Yeah. So he's talking about the new Wi-Fi phones that we're going to be launching very soon. I think we did a soft launch in last channel partner event in Vegas last week, I think. It's called the WP800. It's our first Wi-Fi phone. And obviously, the idea is to have a full Grandstream solution. Not only the Grandstream PBX, WP800, and of course, the Grandstream access point. Because then roaming, for example, we're going to manage it much easier because we have control of the client and Grandstream has control of the AP. So highly recommended to have the full solution. However, we're using the standard protocols. So obviously, the Wi-Fi phone should be compatible with any AP vendor.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that is everything we had come through. Ernesto, thank you again for your time and to go through all this stuff. Thanks everybody once again for hopping on. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions after this, like I said, my email is on this PowerPoint that'll be sent to all the attendees. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to email me or give me a call. Cool. Ernesto, have a great day, and everyone else have a great day as well.